What's up, everybody? It's me, Anthony, and guess what? We are back for season 3 of Anthony's NFL Picks. Week 1! Heard me right, first week already, and now I'm so excited. 2 more days until kickoff, and this was some off-season, I have to admit. And now we're back, renewed for a 3rd season, and now it's time for us to get started. This is going to be a good season, I think. Hopefully my Commanders will do good, though, but I'm excited to get back into this. So let's get started and kick things off. And before we start, like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to get updated on my newest content. But anyways, let's get started with our first game of the 2025-26 NFL season with Thursday Night Football and NFC East matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles, the defending champions. Cowboys, they're here. They had a very bad offseason. A couple of days ago, Micah Parsons was traded to the Packers. The Cowboys got Kenny Clark in exchange, but I think the Eagles are going to beat the Cowboys. The Eagles, I think they're going to be a good team still. However, they don't have much players on defense anymore after the Super Bowl victory against the Kansas City Chiefs. But I still think the Eagles are going to win because it's in Philadelphia, so it's prone for them to beat them to open off this season. Eagles will beat the Cowboys 34-17. The Eagles will start off 1-0. The Cowboys will be 0-1. We move on with our next game, and our next game is going to be a Friday game in Brazil, an AFC West matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chiefs, they're here after losing the Super Bowl last year. They got completely annihilated by the Eagles, losing to them. However, the Chiefs, they still, I think, are going to be a good team, but I don't know if they're going to win the division. They're probably going to because, again, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. I think they're going to go to the Super Bowl again this year because, again, Kansas City is a very good team still. I think they're fueled up from the fire. I think they got mad over that, so I think the Chiefs could possibly go back. I think Kelsey might retire at the end of this season or the 2026 season, but they're playing against the Chargers, who completely got annihilated by the Texans in the wildcard game. And they got Amari Hampton in the draft, so maybe that can help them out. But I'm going to still go with Kansas City on this one. Chiefs beat the Chargers 27-21. The Chiefs will start off 1-0. Chargers will be 0-1. We move on with the next games. And next up, we have the Sunday games at 1 p.m. We have our first game between the Miami Dolphins and the Indianapolis Colts. Dolphins are here, coming back from an 8-9 record, getting beat up after Tua got hurt, didn't stay healthy at all last season. And it's going to be an issue for them if he doesn't stay healthy. So we got to see. Tyreek Hill's really good wide receiver still. However, they're going to be against the Colts, who is Daniel Jones is actually starting over Anthony Richardson, actually. Fun fact. Did you know that? But anyway, this will be a good game, though, but I'm going to go with the Dolphins. The Colts, I don't know if they're going to win this game, though. But again, Daniel Jones is starting, and the Colts are going to just, they could do good this year. Their owner passed away recently, so the Irsay daughters may help revive the franchise, or Danny Derps may come in, because Anthony Richardson looks like a bust. He is terrible, Anthony Richardson. Last season, he pulled himself out of the game, and Joe Flacco had to start because he was with the Colts last year because he was too tired. So I think he's going to get traded in the middle of the season. I'm going to go with the Dolphins over the Colts because the Colts always seem to beat them, but I'm going to go with Miami today. Dolphins will beat the Colts 17-14. Dolphins will be 1-0. Colts will be 0-1. We move on with the next game. And coming up with our next game, we got a revenge game between Aaron Rodgers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers' revenge game, along with Justin Fields. Both teams, Aaron Rodgers with the Jets last year, and Justin Fields was with the Steelers last year, and they're both on opposite teams now. The Steelers, they had a pretty good offseason. They got Aaron Rodgers. I think he's going to retire at the end of the season. It doesn't matter. It doesn't do much. They still got DK Metcalf. They got Darius Slay. They got some good players, but I think they're going to beat the Jets because the Jets are the Jets. Hopefully Justin Fields will revive that team, and you got to see how Aaron Glenn works out in the Gas Go Green. So I'm going to go with the Steelers on this one. I know it's in MetLife, though, but I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. Steelers will beat the Jets 33-29. Steelers will be 1-0. The Jets will be 0-1. We move on with the next game. Coming up at our next game, we got the Battle of the Cats between the Carolina Panthers and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Got to see how Bryce Young plays out in his 3rd year now. They got Tyrod McMillan from the draft. The Jaguars, they got Travis Hunter in the draft. And they look like a really good team because Travis Hunter could play cornerback and wide receiver. He was drafted playing both positions, but I'm going to say Jacksonville will take their win of the season. The Panthers are a work in progress. We got to see how Bryce Young does for this season because you never know. Because Bryce Young had a very bad start last year, as you may know, but who knows? He could have a good season. They can make improvement. I think they could go like 7-10 or even 8-9. Who knows? That's my expectations for the better scenario, but I'm going to go with the Jaguars on this one. It's going to be a good game, though, but I'm going to go with Jacksonville. Jaguars will beat the Panthers 28-24. The Jaguars will be 1-0. Panthers will be 0-1. We move on to the next game. And coming up at our next game, we got the Arizona Cardinals and the New Orleans Saints. Cardinals, they look like a really good team this season. They could make a playoff push. It depends, because the NFC West isn't really, all hyped up. I could see the Rams or the Niners winning the division, but the Cardinals can make some noise. They're taking on the Saints, who Spencer Rattler is starting over Tyler Shaw, who they drafted in April. I'm going to go with the Cardinals because the Cardinals are a better team, and the Saints are going to be really rebuilding with Spencer Rattler starting. It's in New Orleans, but I'm going to go with Arizona on this one. Cardinals will beat the Saints 20-10. Cardinals will start off 1-0. Saints will be 0-1. We move on with our next game, and coming up at our next game, we got a good game, an NFC East matchup again between the New York Giants and my Washington Commanders, baby. Yup, we're in D.C., and I'm hoping that we beat the Giants because the Giants got Russell Wilson, and he's going to be starting against my Commanders, who's Jaden Daniels still on the team. And, I'm here after that game against, the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. We didn't have any O-line, and we got Laramie Tunsil, we got Josh Connolly in the draft, and Brian Robinson is now with the 49ers, but we got Jacory, however. Hopefully he'll work out. We still got Austin Eckler, who is old. But I really hope Jaden Daniels will not have a sophomore slump. I'm a huge Commanders fan, and I did not expect them to go this far as they did last year. And I'm hoping that they, keep progressing and getting better in the post-Dan Snyder era. So I'm going to go with them, hopefully, because we're at home, but it's going to be a close game, though. Commanders will beat the Giants, please, 24-21. My Commanders will hopefully start 1-0. Giants will be 0-1. We move on with the next game. Coming up at our next game, we got another division battle. This is an NFC South matchup between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons. Got to see how Michael Penix does against, in Atlanta, because Kirk Cousins is still on there, though. However, he will not be starting anymore because Kirk Cousins is old. I think he's going to retire at the end of this season. Got to see how Michael Penix turns out in his second year. Hopefully he'll be good. Who knows? But the Buccaneers are a pretty good team still. Baker Mayfield's really good. However, the Falcons always seem to beat the Buccaneers. But I'm going to go with Atlanta is going to lose against Tampa Bay because the Buccaneers are a better team, and I think they can go far. This could go either way, though, but I'm going to have to go with the Buccaneers. Buccaneers will beat the Falcons 27-19. The Buccaneers will start off 1-0. Falcons will be 0-1. We're moving on with our next game, and we have another division battle with our next game. This time it's an AFC North matchup between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns. Bengals, oh boy, being a Bengals fan, I feel bad. You guys are such a good team, they just had no defense. However, Trey Hendrickson is staying in Cincinnati, which is good for them. They don't have defense, however. But Joe Burrow is still really good. Who knows? They're taking on the Browns, who is Joe Flacco. 40-year-old Joe Flacco will be starting for week 1 against the Bengals, which is crazy because Joe Flacco is kind of old, and they had Kenny Pickett who went to the Raiders, and they had Tyler Huntley who they released. They signed him, I don't know why, but they did. And then after that, whatchamacallit, that's their starters, either them, Shador, or Dalen Gabriel. Deshaun Watson's out for the whole season. So I'm going to go with the Bengals either way because they're a very better team, and I think the Browns are going to just be rebuilding this whole season. Bengals will beat the Browns 31-16. The Bengals will start off 1-0. Browns will be 0-1. We move on with the next game. Coming up at our next game, we got the Las Vegas Raiders and the New England Patriots. The Raiders got Geno Smith from from offseason against Seattle. They got Ashton Jeanty from the draft. So we got to find out how they're going to turn out because this is a battle between two new coaches. You got Pete Carroll now coaching for the Raiders and Mike Vrabel coaching for the Patriots. Both teams used to coach them previously. But I'm going to go with the Raiders. The Raiders look like a really good team. Ashton Jeanty looks promising. Who knows? But again, we got to find out what will happen. The Patriots, I think, could win. But at the very end of the day, I think the Raiders will probably top them off. It's going to be a good game, though, but I'm going to have to go with the Raiders. Raiders will beat the Patriots 22-13. The Raiders will start off 1-0. Patriots will be 0-1. We're moving on with the next games, and coming up at our next games, we are the 4 o'clock games. Our first game, it's an NFC West matchup between the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks. 49ers, they look like a really good team. However, they were banged up with injuries, as you may know from last season. They got rid of Deebo Samuel, who's now on my Commanders. They got Brian Robinson from my Commanders, however. Brock Purdy still looks like a really good, quarterback still. However, they're taking on the Sam Darnold-led Seattle Seahawks. Sam Darnold was with the Vikings last year and who did a really good job, mainly because he had Justin Jefferson around him. But I don't know how he's going to turn out in Seattle, Sam Darnold. But I'm going to go with the 49ers over Seattle. 49ers, it's going to be a close game though, but I'm going to go with San Francisco. 49ers will defeat the Seahawks 26-24. The 49ers will start off 1-0. Seahawks will be 0-1. We move on with the next game. Coming up at our next game, we got the Tennessee Titans and the Denver Broncos. Cam Ward's debut starting as a Tennessee Titan, getting picked for the first overall in the 2025 NFL draft by the Titans. Who knows what he's going to do in Tennessee, because the Titans are kind of a bad team right now. They're rebuilding, I don't know if Brian Callahan's going to keep his job. Who knows? But I'm going to have to go with the Broncos. So the Broncos look like a really good team. Bo Nix looks really good. They got rid of Javonte Williams, who went to Dallas. They got Evan Ingram from the Jaguars. He's kind of getting old up there. But I still think Bo Nix is a really dynamic quarterback. I think they could beat Tennessee. Who knows? But I'm going to go with Denver on this one. Broncos will beat the Titans 23-7. The Broncos will be 1-0. Titans will be 0-1. We're moving on with the next game. And coming up at our next game, this is going to be a really good game. I'm anticipating to see this. We got the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers for an NFC West matchup. And not NFC West, NFC North matchup. This is going to be a really good game. I'm looking forward to the Lions and the Packers. The Lions, as you may know, got knocked out by my Washington Commanders in the divisional round. I was very surprised when that happened. I did not know they were going to beat them that badly. I thought they were going to lose the Commanders. But the Lions lost instead. But however, they're traveling to Lambeau Field against the hyped Green Bay Packers, who got Micah Parsons, and they look like a really good team. And a lot of people are going to say, but I'm not sleeping on the Packers this season. I think they're going to be a really good team. And I think I'm going to go with my first Anthony's upset of the week. I think the Packers will beat the Lions 37-34 and lead the division. I think the Packers are going to beat them. Packers will destroy the Lions. No, not destroy them. They will beat them with Anthony's upset of the week, 37-34. Packers will start off 1-0. Lions will be 0-1. We move on with our next game. And coming up in our next game, we got a pretty good game too between the Houston Texans and the Los Angeles Rams. CJ Stroud is young. He's in his third year now. He's looking really good right now. They're going on to LA against the Rams, who are kind of getting up there. Matthew Stafford is a little bit older. They still got Puka Nacua. The Seahawks, they got Cooper Kupp in exchange, however, for him. They got Devontae Adams from the Jets. So we're going to figure out what will happen with this game, but I'm going to go with the Rams. The Rams are still a really good team. However, I don't think they're going to be up there. I think my prediction for the NFC West could be either them or the Niners for this season. I think the Rams will beat the Texans because they have a very easy schedule. Rams will beat the Texans 35-23. Rams will be 1-0. Texans will be 0-1. We're moving on with our next game. And coming up with our next games for Sunday and Monday Night Football, we got a good one. It's an AFC divisional round rematch between the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills. Last time these guys played was in January, and the Bills beat them 27-25 after the tight end on the Ravens, Mark Andrews, dropped that 2-point conversion. I think Buffalo will win this game. The Bills look like a really good team. They got Joey Bosa if he stays healthy. They got Gabe Davis today. He's not that great. But Josh Allen's a really good quarterback still. I don't know. The only issue is how are they going to stop Mahomes in the playoffs, because they always come up short against the Chiefs in the playoffs. But that can change. I think Kansas City will probably still win because, again, the Chiefs have always been good. Even when I was a kid, even when I started watching football, they were always good. With Alex Smith was the quarterback when I first watched. Now it's been Mahomes ever since I was in 8th grade, which was in 2018. I feel old saying that. But I'm going to go with Buffalo on this one. It's going to be a really good game, though, but I'm going to go with them. Bills will beat the Ravens 38-31. Bills will start off 1-0. The Ravens will start off 0-1. And we're moving on with our last game for Monday Night Football. It's an NFC North matchup between the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. The Vikings, they got J.J. McCarthy finally starting in his second year, what was supposed to be his first year of last year, but apparently he tore his meniscus and Sam Darnold took over, who did a really good job. But they're playing against Chicago, who is at home. They got a brand new team. They got Ben Johnson as their new head coach, a new and improved Caleb Williams. I think I'm going to go with the Vikings either way. I want to see how J.J. McCarthy plays out in Minnesota because he was really good in Michigan. We got to see how he turns out despite that injury he suffered last year, which costed him an entire rookie season. I'm going to go with the Vikings on this one. Vikings will beat the Bears 26-16. The Vikings will be 1-0. The Bears will be 0-1. And that is it for this week, everybody. This was a great time to welcome back. It feels great coming back, saying all this stuff. But, I'm excited. So don't forget to tune in for Anthony's NFL Picks Week 2, which will be premiering next Tuesday, September 9th. This is Anthony signing off, and have a great week, and I'm looking forward.